and gray. There has been a real resurgence in the use of gray in rooms in the last 15 years, I would say. Before that, neutrals, beige and taupe and cream and sand were absolutely the main staple base of colors, but now we're seeing much more use of grays in interiors. They are symbols of neutrality and calm, balance, but you have to be careful because gray can make you feel lacking in energy, make you want to be introverted and hibernate. So it's the color of winter in a way. Pure gray is the only color that has no direct psychological qualities. It's a very neutral color that way, and is very much affected by the other colors you put with it. It is much better than the neutral colors of brown and sand and taupe, which all have some yellow in them, for putting hues with it. So the brightest color of the color wheel will always look really good, gray. And here we see one of these gray interiors that are becoming so popular, where you have many layers of gray, often layered with black and white for an achromatic interior. And you need to be careful because I mentioned before, the dyes used for gray and the paints used for gray can have elements of red or yellow or blue or green put into the dyes and the paints. So they can make the gray look slightly different. You have to be very careful not to be putting a warm gray with a cool gray because they can clash in the space. So when you decide to do a gray room, you should keep the tones of gray either all cool or all warm. And then black. This is sophisticated color, become the favorite color for people to wear, and it can be a color of aggression, can be a color of gloom, but it can also be the color of sophistication and glamour and substance. So it absorbs all the wavelengths of the light spectrum, swallows all the light, and creates black. It does not reflect any color whatsoever. So in many cultures, it's viewed as mysterious, but it can also be associated with fear and the unknown. It signifies seriousness and independence. So these are things you can consider when you're bringing black into a space. Quite often black is a very grounding color in an interior, and a little bit of black can really help add weight and depth to an interior space. Now here we see black and white and some yellow. As I said before, when we have an achromatic interior, when you use a bright hue, it really pops, it really works well. So the combination of black and white in interiors is a classic combination. It became very popular in the 1920s. It absorbs more light than any color, so you need to introduce reflective surfaces to give the space vitality, and you need to bring in texture as well. And white. So this is the color of perfection, cleanliness, goodness, coldness. Can also feel sterile a bit if it's too much very bright white. It's the opposite of black, obviously, and reflects all the wavelengths of the light spectrum. When added to black, white lightens its color. And in Eastern cultures, white, you need to be aware, white is associated with grief and death, whereas in the Western cultures, black is associated with these things. In Western cultures, it represents purity and innocence. It's associated with spirituality and faith. But some of the negative associations of white include emptiness and isolation. So just again, when you're using color, it's good to just have a bit of a background to understand the meanings of color. So in interiors, white is associated with luxury, but it can be very high maintenance, or it shows dirt very easily. So if you have children or pets, you might consider that it might not be the most practical color to use. Like black, white is very uncompromising color. And it can be a strain to look at a room that's all white all the time. It's vibrating very strongly with your eyes. Can give, obviously, a feeling of spaciousness and freshness, and it certainly does enhance natural light when it comes into the space. Very popular in northern countries, Sweden and Canada. When you have long winters with a lot of snow, what happens is if you have a white interior, it's reflecting all the light coming from the snowy exterior and making the rooms feel a lot brighter. White schemes, it's very important when you have an all-white scheme to bring in texture if you want to make it interesting. So what's interesting in this bedroom is they have very thick wool cover and a wool rug to counteract with the cotton bedding. Adds some nice texture. Color is so important that brands, companies, spend a lot of money researching color in order to decide the best color to advertise their brand to consumers. So if color wasn't that important, they wouldn't be doing it. So if these companies are spending millions and millions of yuan on researching how to promote their product to consumers, then obviously color is very important. So there's just some examples here of how different companies have chosen color to represent their brand. So when a company is using yellow, yellow symbolizes optimism and warmth and friendliness. So we have McDonald's food, and we have Nikon, and this is all like optimism and something that you want to do or enjoy and experience. Orange is friendly and cheerful, so we have Amazon and Fanta and Crush. A lot of soft drinks will have orange, it's nice and fresh. But also you will see oil companies that will have it Gulf. Now you think oil, what does that have to do with freshness? But by putting the color, it makes the mind associated with freshness. And then red, there's many companies that use red because it really attracts the eye. So Coca-Cola uses red, and Exxon, Virgin Media, Kellogg's, Cornflakes, and Nintendo, they all use red because it will attract your eye. It symbolizes excitement. And then we have the violet purple, which is often used for things like chocolate, Cadbury, or here we have Yahoo, and we have children's toys like Barbie dolls and things like that, which is creative color. Blue is the color of trust. So blue and green, you will often see these colors on products that the company wants you to perceive as being very eco-friendly. So you will often see them on oil companies, and cleaning products. So these might be products that have a lot of chemicals, but if they put the branding in green or blue, we perceive them to be very a good thing to use for the environment. So you have to be cautious as a consumer to understand how companies are using color to manipulate your thinking about the product. So here are some examples. Now, quite often when you see coffee commercials on television, they will show you the coffee in a red mug like this. Now, when they are filming these commercials, it's taking all day to film the commercial, and you can be sure the coffee in that cup is cold, okay? But because it's in a red cup, when we see the commercial, we think, oh, that must be a very nice hot cup of coffee. If it was in a blue mug, we would never buy that coffee because we would think, oh, that coffee's cold. So again, psychologically, we're thinking the coffee is hot just because it's in a red mug. And as I said before, the colors of blue and green quite often used with cleaning products and oil companies and gasoline companies to make you feel and believe that they are very eco-friendly. The other thing with color, it's also used in practices such as Ayurvedic medicine, Reiki, and other color healing therapies, and these are becoming more and more popular in many, many cultures now. So color therapists describe the 7 spectral colors of light: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, purple, to different parts of the bodies, different chakras of the bodies, and there are therapies that are centered around these different color areas of the bodies. Now, color symbolism can have very different meanings in different cultures. So, once again, if you have clients from different cultures, it might be worth doing a little bit of research to understand how that color might be perceived in that culture. So, for instance, in Africa, yellow often signifies a very high-ranking person. In India, it represents commerce. But in Western cultures, it can represent cowardice and being a fearful person. So this is why yellow is a very controversial color, quite often used in interiors, because people have different perceptions of what that color means. And interesting to see how different colors use color in wedding ceremonies. In Middle Eastern cultures and North African cultures like Morocco and Algeria, places like that, the bride is always dressed in dark green, which is considered a very auspicious color for a bride to wear at a wedding. In a Western culture, a bride is considered very bad luck for a bride to wear green. It's considered bad luck for the bridal attendants, the bridesmaids, to wear green. So very different understanding. In China, obviously, red is a very auspicious color, and worn in weddings. The bride would not wear red in the West, because in the West, the bride wears white all the time, which is the color of purity and joy. Chinese 5 elements theory, we have red, which represents fire, yellow represents the earth, white is metal, black is water, and green or blue is wood. So this is another theory of color. So red, happiness, success, good fortune. Obviously, whenever you have celebrations here, red is such an important color. It's a color of joy and celebration. So again, in China, using this color in an interior will have a lot of cultural references as well. And yellow, again, another power color in China, the color of the first emperor of China, known as the Yellow Emperor, always in art pictured in yellow robes, power color, and the Yellow River, Huanghe. This is the most important color from an ancient perspective. And green, the color of money and wealth, fertility, hope, harmony, pure and clean, often the color of commerce, as I mentioned, but it can be considered an unlucky color because, again, in China there's a saying, if a man is said to wear a green hat, it means his wife is going with another man. So it's good to understand these references to color. Now blue, color of positivity and long life, it's often seen in combination with green or black. It can represent wood, it symbolizes spring and brings a positive meaning to an interior. So here it's quite often used on wood furniture in China, but not only in China, in the West as well. It's very popular to paint furniture blue. What I will also say about blue, in Middle Eastern cultures and cultures around the Mediterranean, blue is considered an auspicious color to keep away bad spirits. So fishermen will have blue boats, and a lot of buildings will have the doors and windows painted blue because it's supposed to keep anything bad from entering into the house. Now black, immortality, knowledge, and power. Black is the big power color. So we see it often used when people want to present themselves in a very powerful way. So these limousines and cars of statesmen and stateswomen, they're always black to show the power. If you're working for a large corporation and the people running the corporation want to make people feel that they're very powerful, then you might choose using some black in the decoration of the space. And gold, again, like red, very powerful color for celebration, richness, nobility. When you combine it with red, it's often seen on the special occasions. And not only in China. I mean, this is a color in the Western countries of Christmas. Yes, red and gold and green, these colors are the colors of joy and celebration. And white, as I said, is one of these strange colors where it means the opposite in different cultures. So in the Western culture, it's the color of purity, joy, celebration of weddings. But in the Eastern cultures, it's this color of mourning and funerals. So again, to be aware of that. And the way different cultures see and describe color can vary dramatically in the world. So in Liberia, the Bassa people have only 2 words for classifying color. They have the word ziza, which means red, orange, and yellow, and they have the word kui, which means green, blue, and purple. So they're the only 2 words they have for colors. Which is interesting because I go to Morocco a lot, and I know, for instance, the Berber culture has only 1 word that means green and blue. So if somebody has blue eyes or green eyes, it's the same word, which is interesting. Whereas the Inuit have 17 words for white, because white is obviously the most important color for them. So they will have nuances of the color, different words. In some countries, blue symbolizes healing and the repellence of evil. As I mentioned in Middle Eastern cultures, it meant to keep evil away. So you will see a lot of blue eye-shaped amulets, which are meant to keep the evil eye away. It's a talisman protection symbol to keep bad things from coming to you. So blue is considered a very auspicious color in these cultures. In Eastern cultures, blue symbolizes immortality, and in Hinduism it's associated with Krishna, who is the god of love and joy. Green has traditionally been forbidden in Indonesia, whereas in Mexico it's the national color. And in the Middle East it represents fertility, luck, and wealth, and is the color of Islam. And in Eastern cultures, it's the symbol of youth and fertility and new life. But as we've already seen, it can mean infidelity in China. So again, depending on where you're client is coming from, you might need to do a little bit of research about what the color means in that culture. And red in different cultures, in Asian cultures, it's good luck, prosperity, celebration, happiness, and long life. In Western cultures, it's energy and passion and love. And brides will often wear red on their wedding day in Eastern cultures, as we've seen. Yellow associated with happiness, cheeriness, optimism in Western cultures, but in Germany it represents envy and jealousy. So maybe if you have a German client, you won't suggest yellow. And in Egypt, it means happiness and good fortune. And then orange, here, the color of the autumn, the harvest and warmth. In Hinduism, saffron color is considered a very lucky color. And sacred color. In the Netherlands, it's the Dutch color. It's the big Dutch color. They call themselves the orange people. In Colombia, it is the color of fertility, sexuality. In Eastern cultures, it is the color of love and happiness and good health. And you can see that Buddhist monks' robes are usually orange. And violet, here we see the Queen of England. Violet is associated with royalty and wealth, and spirituality and nobility around the world. So it's also the color of faith and religion quite often, but in Brazil and Thailand, it's the color of mourning. So the color of purity and peace, cleanliness and elegance in the West, but in the East, it's the color that you see, as I said before, at funerals. And black is the color of sophistication, but in the Middle East it can represent rebirth and mourning. In Africa it symbolizes age and maturity and masculinity. So what's all this mean? It's good for interior designers to understand how important color is, not just how put colors nicely together in a room, but how the meaning of color can be very different for different cultures. So your choice might be influenced by where in the world you are working or where your clients are coming from. So it's good to do a little bit of research on these elements so you can then choose appropriately for your client when you're selecting the colors for their interiors.